So what are the hot topics for CS communities? The workflow for Twitter analysis is quite straightforward, and it's a simple thing where we need some help, because Twitter data, you can retrieve that using the Twitter API, but it's not that convenient. There are tools for acquiring data. What you see here is the workflow that we have. So when we acquire data, we have, for example, a query that says, take all the tweets that have, for example, citizen science in multiple languages. So the word citizen science or the hashtag citizen science, and then collect everything. So what we do then is store that into tabular data. And then we take a look at what kind of tweets do we have. For example, is it a retweet? If we have a retweet, then we can say that there's a network connection, because if A is retweeting B, then you can place a network. A relates to B. So, and then we have such a network, and we can use tools to analyze those networks and identify, for example, sub-communities or very important actors. So what we did, for example, for the CS-Trick project, we identified influential Twitter accounts, for example. So we have those Lingo tools that we use for the acquiring of data. And then we can analyze those data, place descriptive statistics, and identify trends on Twitter. What are the important topics? And what we can also do is the network analysis, for example, the retweet networks that I mentioned, sub-communities, but also centrality measures. And here's a word cloud that we created. You could see that there is quite some high activity. And what you see, this Feinstaub is Feinstoff, that is fine dust. So this is the Dutch term for fine dust. You could see that there are some quite active people from the Dutch citizen science community that we did not see on beforehand. But after we did that, we are now aware that there is quite an active part in the CS community. And I will now show you a bit about this tool where we have represented this. Can you see the screen now with the tool?
Yes, it's very small, but I think we see it. Yeah,
it's small. Okay. So this is one of the data tools that is actually working on the already extracted Twitter data. This is one of the dashboards that we created within the project. And here, for example, we have a view about the most important or mostly used hashtags. So for example, this SDGs hashtag is quite often, because most of the citizen science projects that we included also use that hashtag. What is very interesting is how this develops over time. For example, if we take a look at the time series of the hashtags, then you can see that, for example, here you have some quite popular hashtags, how they have been used over time. And there's one that I find very interesting, because this is one of the conferences that I attended last year. And you could see that this is really the time window of the conference. And there was a very intense use of this hashtag. And afterwards, there are only a few occurrences of that. But we could also monitor, for example, what are the topics people are talking about. And here you can really investigate, for example, what has been used quite often. But we could also see how everything is distributed across the world. So this is, for example, one of the basic things that we have done so far with the Twitter analysis. Most of those things are more descriptive than based on social network analysis, because this is quite a huge data set. And I can show that to you. If we click on the network view here, for example, the retweets, this might load a bit. This is how such a network looks like. So it's really, if you don't use any methods for aggregating the data, you get a lot of data that you cannot handle anymore. So what you can do is, for example, to extract sub-communities, so coherent parts of the network that are more densely connected. Then every of those nodes stands for a community. Then you have a better view about what you can get there. But still, in those let's say huge data sets, it's better to use aggregated data. Okay. So we also have the source code online for that. It's in our CS track GitHub repository.